Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Top Bins with Twins. This is Luke here. And this week on Top Bins with Twins, we are going to be talking about some Gabriel replacements. And we're going to be talking about using the eye test in FPL. More arbitrary, kind of unique experience for each person, I think is the best way to say it. But before we do that, Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I am excited for an upcoming FPL weekend. And thank the Lord we don't have another international break until
Oh my
March.
gosh, I completely agree,
Because
man. It's
international
crazy.
breaks fucking suck. Like,
They're
just
the
horrible.
worst. They're the worst. And then you come back and you have 5 players injured, which is currently what I have in my team. So we'll see what happens.
It's scary right now. I mean, you have
It is.
you have 5 right in your team. I have 4 currently that are flagged.
Yeah, I have Enzo, Gabriel, Gahey, Calafiori, and then
Who's your last
there's
one?
one more. It's one of my midfielders. I've got it right here. I want to say, it's Anthony Gordon, who definitely is getting Das Boot this week.
Yeah,
but
that's a good call.
yeah, still a little frustrating either way. So yeah, but we will get into that very shortly and talk about some replacements for who I just mentioned, Gabriel. But wanted to pass it over to Paul and see how the international break has been treating you. Any updates you want to give listeners out there, or just anything you want to talk about before we get into it?
From a pure just football watching perspective, which I don't have the luxury of being able to watch football during the day because, poverty. But
8 to 5, baby.
but it's been a really good break to watch football this time.
It has been.
I mean,
Yes.
you have Ireland, who is now who just beat Portugal at home and then beat Hungary after being down twice, scored basically a last second
No,
winner
at the death, no time left
to get them into a playoff to make it to the World Cup, which really, really hope they qualify with all the momentum they've built. But
yeah, same here.
who's their striker's name?
Tony Parrott.
Parrott scored 5 goals in 2 games.
Very impressive. Actually, ex-Spur. He played with Spurs in the past, as you all well know out there, avid FPL players. But very impressive for Ireland. I think, going into this international window, a lot of people have pretty much written them off of any shot of making it to any kind of, making it directly qualifying or even just making it into the playoff. And they defied all odds. They get 6 points out of those 2 matches, and they're into the playoff now. So good for Ireland. Hopefully they can make it through to the World Cup and come on over here to the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think besides that, I mean, international break has just been filled of more, doing life stuff really than paying attention to soccer and everything.
Paul just made a big move to a new place, so a lot of stuff going on for him right now. So thank you for making
Thanksgiving's around the corner.
Yes, for our English friends over there who do not know, Thanksgiving is an American holiday where we celebrate eating a lot of food. Really?
Wait, should we break down the actual origins?
How dark do we go? We don't have to go there, but
so Columbus went across the ocean. Just kidding. We're going to cut it off there. There's a lot wrapped up in that, but
everyone knows what Thanksgiving is. We'll soon. So we've got that coming up on both of our radars. So that's a lot of family time, and hopefully time to watch football as well. So we'll see how that plays out over the next week or so. But we also do have a lot of football coming up very soon. We've got, as Paul mentioned, no more international breaks, which is awesome. Cannot wait to have football uninterrupted for a little while. But then we've got the festive fixtures right around the corner.
Well, let's start there too. Like, we also have AFCON, which is the start of game week 16. And I know there's been some conversations between certain FAs and then also not national teams, of club teams deciding dates of when players are actually going to leave and all that. So we should have more clarity in the next couple of weeks on that, but just be really careful if you have a player that you think is going to be leaving for AFCON.
Some bigger name players who will be going in more popular FPL assets. Mbomo's one. Another person to look at is Ismail Sarr. He's someone to keep an eye on. I'm not sure if a mods team qualified or not. His country did. I can't remember. But there are some other options out there that you'll definitely. The main thing, I think, my piece of advice is Salah's a big one as well.
How could you forget about him?
Kind of a big one.
I mean, he's not really an FPL asset this season, so
the Salah shade is already being thrown, and we're
you're
5 minutes.
You're in the same boat as me, dude.
No, I was the one throwing the shade. So, yes. So my advice to anyone out there is, if you're going to be making a transfer this week, just real quick, go and check on that player. Make sure that they're not going to AFCON, or you're aware that they're going to AFCON, even if you're going to make the transfer regardless, because that helps you kind of build into your team and be aware of how you want to structure going forward. If you're just kind of aimlessly transferring in a player and you then realize 2 weeks from now that they are going to AFCON, that becomes a problem. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're planning for it now and you decide you want to make, like, say you want to go for Mbomo while he's hot now and you feel like it's a good time to get to him, then more power to you. Just have a plan for what you're going to do whenever he goes.
And part of what we talk about too is also sometimes it's a good move to go counter to what people are kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably a lot of people that are like us that are now really like heavily factoring in AFCON and avoiding players like that.
Yep.
Agreed. So if you have the ability to, you could technically bring in a more AFCON centric team over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Try to get some of those returns.
Yeah.
And then use those transfers to get them out.
Yeah, very true.
It's just dependent on how you want to play the game.
Yeah,
you know?
Depends on your kind of risk.
I wouldn't recommend that, but
it's an interesting idea.
It's a counterculture way of thinking.
It is an interesting idea, and I think it's something for us to keep on our radars, right? Because a lot of the most informed FPL managers probably be steering away from that kind of idea. So maybe it's a way to get a leg up on them. So it's an interesting idea. I like it. But as we're talking about getting a leg up on the competition, one of the most highly owned FPL assets, which is Gabriel, is pulled up with an injury for Brazil this week. It was their first friendly. No, I think they were playing qualifying for the World Cup, but they've already qualified. So it's kind of
it was basically a friendly.
Yeah. But Gabriel is currently at 43.6% owned. He is yellow flagged in the game with a 75% chance of playing. The app says it's a thigh injury. I think the understanding more so was it might have been like a inner like groin area injury.
I think it was an abductor, right?
You know, and then you have all the FPL doctors coming online saying, "Oh, well, this looks like it'll be 13 days." Like that kind of ridiculous behavior where, you know, if it's a certain type of sprain, you can kind of guesstimate a timeline, but we never know what these are going to be. So I think the main piece of advice for everyone out there, if you have Gabriel, pay very close attention to what Arteta says in his pre-match presser. That should give us somewhat of an idea, even though he usually doesn't give that much. Maybe we'll have an idea because he might be upset with Brazil for playing Gabriel in a fixture that really, at the end of the day, maybe doesn't matter. So we might get Arteta.
How many center backs does Brazil have that they can fucking start?
A lot.
Sorry.
A lot. No, it's understandable because international breaks are really, really frustrating for club teams, because then you have players coming back who are injured and they just need time for their body to heal, right? And then you're in this situation where I'm not sure where. I think Brazil was playing in England this time. I don't think they were back in South America, but nevertheless, these players are traveling for their national teams and then at a higher risk of being injured because they're just out of their normal routine. They're not with the normal physios they work with all the time. It just, that change in the routine makes a pretty big difference.
Oh, no, it for sure does. And I mean, that's something too that, I mean, as an FPL manager, you can't control that, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's literally nothing we can do about that. You can't predict that somebody's going to get hurt over playing for their nation. All these things, you just have to roll with it and figure it out, you know?
The injury that I'm upset about is Mark Gahey. That was the one that came out of nowhere. He got injured. He didn't play in game week 10, right, for Palace, which probably would have been on a 10-pointer because Palace kept a clean sheet and he's been on bonus almost every single week. But Glasner did not say anything in his presser beforehand.
Didn't say a single word about it.
And it turns out Gahey wasn't even walking at this point in time. So Glasner just completely forgot to mention that. So that was really frustrating.
Part of that too, though, Luke, is that if the media doesn't know, they can't ask questions about it. That's usually the deal in those pressers. And we know for a fact that Arteta's probably going to get 5 questions about Gabriel going forward,
Right.
which he will bounce around it possibly. But it's one thing I think when it can, like, nobody knows, it can slide under the radar. But, like, think Areola with Semenyo, he's going to get a million questions about him too in the presser. So we're going to have more data essentially than we would have with Gehi.
Apparently, Kluivert was injured as well with the Dutch national
I did see
team. That someone that I was thinking about bringing in this week. I was really kind of looking into it a little bit.
It's a little bit of last season fever there.
I really like Bournemouth's fixtures. They get really nice around this
West
time.
Ham coming back.
West Ham at home. I think they have Burnley sometime in the near future in the next 3 or so. But they've got really good fixtures. And Semenyo missed the penalty last week, right? Kluivert has been on pins Kluivert has been on pins in the past. I think he might take pins back from Semenyo. Because he was converting them in a really high clip. So
we'll see who gets back.
I wouldn't be shocked to see him get on pins.
I mean, if it's a situation where Kluivert comes back before Semenyo does.
Yeah. I'm not going to go there now because of the injury risk there, but it was something I was tossing around and, just the international break, discovery period that we go through. So, yeah, but onto the topic that we kind of start out with here, Gabriel replacements. Where would you go if you're going to replace Gabriel, Paul?
This is going to be somewhat controversial. I would probably go to Liverpool.
Which Liverpool asset?
Van Dijk. I think it's a natural progression. You go from another premium to a lesser premium, essentially, because Gabriel's had a lot of price rises. Van Dijk hasn't had near as many.
Right.
You can take those funds, bank part of whatever you get out of it, and then go to Van Dijk, who, as we saw, should have scored in their last game against City.
For sure.
And Liverpool, I think, are going to be better. I don't know if it's this week, but I think sometime in the next couple of weeks, they're going to figure it out. And the defense does look like the weakest part, but I mean, with Van Dijk, you're getting somebody that can score on any corner.
And DEFCON. He's hitting DEFCON. I don't remember the exact hit rate, but he's averaging almost 10 DEFCON per match, which is pretty incredible.
And I mean, I know for a fact that Liverpool will figure it out. It just depends on when, like we were saying.
They will. They're too talented. And today, watching Germany play, so Germany just played their second friendly of their national break against Slovakia. Florian Wirtz was by far the best player on the pitch. He looked incredible. He was bouncing around. He had that energy that he had at Leverkusen, where he was playing very creatively. It's like when you watch him play Liverpool, it almost feels like the last month or so, everything he's thinking about, right? It's like
the joy isn't there.
Every pass that he's making, it's like, oh, well, I got to make the perfect pass. And then he thinks about it and then misses the pass by a foot, right? It's those little things where he's talented enough, he's skilled enough to make that pass. He's just in his head. But with Germany, you don't see that at all. He looks really good playing Voltamade. I was very impressed with their link-up play together, but the 2 assists he had, he just clipped it over the entire Slovakian backline.
I saw the second one to Sane.
Beautiful assists, right? So I think Liverpool will get it together. The question is who's the best asset to go to, because the fixtures are very good. They're very good. With Forest being the first one at home this weekend. That's a fixture we want to target, because it kind of like you're saying, Paul, I think Forest is one of those matches where Liverpool can start to turn the ship around. We know they're going to sit deep. They should. Do you think they will?
I know that there's going to be that one breakout performance where they drop like 6 on somebody, right? It could be this weekend. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I would even double or triple up on Liverpool or anything like that, but I think that part of it is if you're an early mover, that stock's going to move like crazy,
Yeah.
Like it's it's just one of those things where, I mean, it's risky in my opinion to go Liverpool at this point in time, but it could pay out big time,
The thing about Van Dijk that I really like, moving from Gabriel straight to Van Dijk, is you're saving a little bit of money now. Depends on how early you brought in Gabriel. but you've probably banked some money at this point because he's risen, I think, what, 7 or 8 times, something like that. So I would sell him for a profit in my team. And at that point, Van Dijk is at 5.9 right now. Really good price to target there. And then if Van Dijk goes up another, let's say, like, he rises 4 or 5 more times, the next 3 or 4 weeks, we could go back to Gabriel, right? And really, you're kind of getting that money back that you're losing from selling him, right? So,
no, for sure.
Just something to keep in mind. We do want to listen to the presser and have an idea of what's happening with Gabriel. I do have a couple other options I want to throw out there.
Let's hear them
for the listeners. So I really like Van Dijk. He's definitely top of the list. If we're going to do like a top 5 or so, I would throw Nico O'Reilly on the list as well.
I got a lot.
I think he's at 5 million now. He's returned in 2 of the last 3 fixtures, which is really good.
I think he's almost returned in every FPL game he's every Premier League match he started.
Yeah,
right?
it's a really high clip. It's a really high clip. I'll look it up, but I like the fixtures for City. They go from, so it's Newcastle away, which a lot of people don't like, but I think I'm okay with that for City. I know it's one of those fixtures that historically they haven't been good in as of late. And I think I heard that Holland hasn't scored against Newcastle away in like since 2022 or something. I might have misheard that one, but I do like that fixture for City. I think Newcastle are wobbling a little bit, and one little push, and I think City could get through them pretty easily. So, but it is away. St. James Park has a certain magic to it, so we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think it is speculative to go another City asset. Like, what's their run of fixtures? Let's see.
So it goes Newcastle away in 12. 13 is Leeds at home, which is a really good fixture for City. Fulham away in 14. And then, and a heads up, everyone, game week 14, that is a midweek fixture. So we need to keep in mind that we have this coming weekend, the weekend after that, and then we go straight into a midweek fixture for it's around the 1st and 2nd and 3rd of December. So that's a midweek fixture, just so everyone's not caught out by that. Start planning for it accordingly. So after that midweek fixture against Fulham, City then go have Sunderland at home, which will probably turn out to be a really tough fixture, right? We'll see. It's different. It's different at the Etihad.
I think
it's different.
I think playing at home is going to be a different conversation. Like, Sunderland are a good team, but like, I also think last weekend or 2 weekends ago, that match goes entirely different if it's at the Emirates against Arsenal.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's a good point.
It's the same thing as Leeds at home too.
But this isn't
There's certain teams that just play, like Newcastle at home is a different beast than away. Like,
right,
to me, it's a different category.
Very true, very true. But it's not the same as Southampton coming to Man City last season. It's different.
No, right? I've never said that about Sunderland.
No, I know that. But I think we have with these newly promoted teams, there's this caveat of, oh, well, they're newly promoted, but all of them are a little different. Burnley, maybe not so much.
Maybe a team to target with West Ham and Wolves.
Expected figures are not looking great for Burnley, is all I will say. But yeah, and then you have Crystal Palace away and West Ham at home. So it's really good fixtures for City. I mean, really throughout the entire festive fixtures. So I think doubling, maybe tripling up, maybe this week is not the time to do it. But if it's not this week, then it'll be next week in game week 13. We'll see a lot of people going on the City bandwagon. So I think this week is a good week to get in. This is a time where I would, if you're going to go to City, I think this is how you get a leg up on everyone else before, a lot of FPL managers start moving on City assets.
So do you think, Luke, Nico O'Reilly, though, has a risk of being rotated?
Yes, he does. Because Ryan Aït-Nouri is back in training. And he's back playing, right? So there's always that potential risk there, but he's been playing so well as of late. I just think Nico O'Reilly keeps his spot, and maybe they sprinkle Aït-Nouri into Champions League, or maybe give him a cup fixture, something like that, right? It's kind of how I see it.
But I just want everybody to remember who Manchester City's manager is.
Yes, but Aït-Nouri will also be going to AFCON as well. So something to keep in mind there. The other Gabriel replacement that I really like, let me pull up his numbers. He plays for Brentford. He is a defender, and his name is Sepp van den Berg. Probably didn't think I was going to say that, but I really like his underlying figures, I should say. He is currently priced at 4.5 million, and he is fourth in Brentford's team. I have a picture of it here. I believe he's fourth in Brentford's team for XG throughout the entire season. He's yet to score a goal yet, which is probably why he's not as popular as some other assets, but he's always close to DEFCON. And I think he's their prime target on set pieces. So, with that being combined, and I really like Brentford's fixtures.
I really don't.
They go Brighton away, which I think there's goals in that game. We know Brighton, they've kept 2 clean sheets in a row, but I don't expect that to continue. They concede a lot of chances. Burnley at home, which is really great, and probably as good as it's going to get this season. Arsenal away, Tottenham away, which I think is a good attacking fixture. Leeds at home, Wolves away, and then Bournemouth at home. I like all of those fixtures for Bournemouth. The Arsenal one away, that will be very tough. But I
think
really
Spurs
like
away is still tough too.
I don't think it's in that, but even if it is, you still have 4 of the 6 being really good options there, where I feel like there's a potential for keeping clean sheet in all of those 4. And I think there's goals there in the 4 as well. Even 5 of the 6. I really think there are goals there. So but one of the main reasons why I've been looking at this is because Brentford have been since the last international break. Brentford have, let me get at the right stat here. Brentford have created 10.3 XG, which is second highest in the league since the last international break. So the last 4 games, second highest XG out of any team in the Premier League. Defensively, second lowest XG conceded out of any team in the Premier League. Through 4 fixtures, they conceded an expected goals of 3.55, which is really good. The actual lowest was Arsenal at 2.74. I think the underlying numbers are telling me, the way I'm reading this, is Brentford have been getting better throughout the course of the season. And this is the indicator to me that Thiago's going to be really popular. He's an asset that a lot of people will go to because he has scored the goals for them and he takes pins. I think there are other players that are worthwhile looking at for Brentford. So that's my hot take differential. I think Van den Berg is, his ownership is currently 0.6%. So pretty good differential there.
So yeah, that's a serious differential.
So if he scores a goal this week or next week, we will clip this and you'll see it everywhere. So
yes, we will.
Yeah. That is my differential Gabriel replacement. But I really like Nico O'Reilly and I really like Van Dijk as well.
I'm going to throw out one thing on top of that, Luke. I think anybody that wants to bring in a Crystal Palace defender, go for it. If you want to take from Gabriel to another player, I think any Palace defender is a good asset. Like Munoz, awesome. He had 2 assists in 1 match. He could have multiple other returns from this season. Chris Richards will show up on a goal at some point. You just wait.
Yeah,
he is a lot better on corners than he's shown so far this season. So that can happen. If Gahey comes back, who knows where he's at right now in his recovery, though.
Hopefully he's walking. That's what I think he is. He did report to international duty with England, but I think he got sent back really quickly. So, but there was a mention that he was walking again. So I'm hopeful he might be able to play because Crystal Palace have Wolves away this week, and that's a really good fixture that I like a lot for him.
And so just to bring up, that's kind of crazy. So Palace, to replace Gahey in their last match, started JD Canvo
Yes. Yep.
who ended on a 10-pointer last week with 2 bonus points, 15 DEFCON, 1 clean sheet, 10 points total. Pretty good haul for somebody. I mean, he is 4.5 million. You kind of expect him to be a little bit lower, but obviously FPL priced in. If somebody gets injured, let's not let a Crystal Palace defender be super cheap.
4 million. Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, I mean, he's owned by 0% of the game.
There you go.
You thought Luke could find a differential. I found a differential that's, I don't even know how to describe how much less of a differential.
I mean, 100-fold at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that
I raise you a differential.
Very impressive. I can't top that. I don't think it goes into the negatives.
Unless it's negative, yeah.
I don't think it does. Well, no, because you have to own a player in order to sell. So yeah, it can't go negative. But yeah, I like that pick. I will see how Gahey is kind of tracking. If he's back, I bet Gahey's starting.
I would, me too.
So
it's this is going to be a big week for pressers.
It will be. It will
Friday
be.
afternoon, English time.
Concerns
early for
with
us.
Arsenal, Bournemouth. Who else? We've talked about Crystal Palace. We just need to hear what everyone's saying because who knows what else popped up. You never know. But hopefully there were no other injuries than what we've discussed. Hopefully everyone will be all right. And because otherwise we're just playing fun with flags at this point. So
it's crazy.
That it is. Okay, on to our next topic. We're going to talk about the eye test in FPL and how we are picking the players that not necessarily are jumping off the spreadsheets or the statistical analyses. We're talking about the players that when you watch them play, they catch your eye, and it's something that you notice where they're either taking up really good positions, they are making really good runs in behind that could potentially turn into, or it's something as simple as you watch a player and you love they take set pieces. So I'll pass it over to you, Paul. What is one of the main things you look for when you're watching players play the Premier League? What makes a good FPL asset when you're watching a game going on?
Well, I think the flashy thing in FPL is to go for attackers, right? So let's just start there. To me, an FPL asset just on surface level, right? If we're looking at the bare essentials, are they going to play, right? Are they going to be on the pitch as much as possible, creating chances, finishing chances, all of those things? The second big thing, of course, is since we're talking about attackers, how likely are they to score a goal, right? Or how likely are they to be the one creating the goal, you know?
Right.
Because that's how we get those FPL points. You don't get an FPL assist for a hockey assist, right? You don't get points for that.
I've had a lot of those in my team.
Yeah, you can play the best ball in a sequence and be the key factor in a goal being created, and you're not going to be rewarded for it. So at a certain point, it's good to have flashy players in your team in a certain regard that are going to do these really cool, like beautiful, like long crosses or set up a sequence, all that stuff. But the main question is, are they going to be a fundamental part of the actual return?
Yeah. Yep.
And to me, a player like that pops up is Brian Mbomo.
Okay.
I think he is somebody that if you just like watch him play, he just is so dangerous on the ball, and he can create chances for himself. He's not necessarily a selfish footballer, so you know that he can get assists too. And then somebody also like that pops up is, let's see, Mateta for Crystal Palace, right? He is just that big dominating force at the top of their attack, where you know that most of their goals, like last weekend, right? Or 2 weekends ago, whenever Palace were playing, their best chance of the game was a ball that got played into Mateta. He lays it off to Sarr. Sarr doesn't finish the chance,
right?
But it was Mateta's hold-up play being basically the figurehead of that attack.
Yeah,
where it's somebody that you can get returns from any way,
Yeah. Now I think you mentioned Sarr. Sarr is one of those players that comes to mind for me, right? If I'm thinking back to, I can't remember if it was a cup fixture. It was probably
It was probably against
Europa
Liverpool
Conference League. No, this was a different one because SARS had multiple games this season where he could have had multiple 15 pointers at least because he's been in really great positions. He's been in those places where when you get let's say, so Crystal Palace, you have Mitchell or Munoz making those wide overlapping runs. And they get the ball down to in line and then they cut it back to the 6-yard box, that deadly diagonal right there. He's one of those players who's always around for those, right? He's always in the right. Seems like he almost has a supernatural knack for getting in the right position.
Yeah.
Which is a skill. That is undoubtedly a skill, but that's not something that's necessarily, to my knowledge, tracked at this point. I'm sure clubs are tracking that through player movement, such, but it's not something that we actively see a lot talked about. That is a skill there. And that's one of the things we're looking for when we're looking for a really good FPL asset. That's a way to get a leg up on the rest of FPL managers because you want to look at the things that are really hard to quantify, but they actually go a really long way if you're just taking that in as you watch, right? Another player who was really good at that was Ilkay Gundogan. He was someone who just timed his run exceptionally well. He understood where the space was and when to make a run into that space. It's one of the things that Pep most loved about him, that he would praise him for over and over again, saying that he just has that innate ability. You can't teach it to someone, but as FPL managers, we should try to be somewhat aware of that, right? Whenever a player's like that. So, I think there's other really interesting players to watch too. Like if we look at Semenyo, he's someone who's been a lot of fun to watch in the Premier League for multiple seasons. He's really great at squaring up a defender, going one-on-one and going right past him, but the way he hits the ball is incredible. Right? Like I think we've always known that if he can just piece it together, start converting his shots a little at a higher clip, he was going to be a great FPL asset. And he's gotten to that point now where at least throughout the beginning of the season, he was really converting his chances. That has toned down a little bit, but the point still stands that if you watch him play, then you know that he's such a talented player, and he's right on the door of that 18-pointer almost every game.
Yeah, and another thing too, kind of right off what you're saying, is a really good thing to watch for is the speed at which a player plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Semenyo, like I would say the game has slowed down for him a little bit this season, right?
Yeah.
Like he's being more clinical. He's finishing a lot of chances that he didn't used to finish. Has kind of slowed down a little bit for him.
Right.
That's
Right.
probably just kind of like the season wearing on his legs a little bit, all that. But then you have a player like Florian Wirtz, who goes and plays for his national team, does very well because he's used to the system, he's used to the players, all these different things, but he's still struggling to get used to the pace of the Premier League.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it will click. This is what I'm saying about Liverpool. It will click. It's the same thing for Isak whenever he's playing. Like it is going to happen. And Isak is Premier League tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are both players too that whenever it clicks, they're going to be almost maybe not mandatory FPL assets, but they're going to be players that we're going to heavily consider for our teams.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think another layer to this conversation of the eye test. So, like we're saying, like space is really important. The way players occupy space, their timing, confidence is another variable that I don't know how you would quantify that, right? Just from a tracking perspective, but confidence is one of the most important things that a footballer can have.
No, exactly. It's like, how do you quantify when you see Steph Curry dribbling on a basketball court?
Yeah.
How do you quantify that feeling of saying, well, it doesn't matter what he does, it's going in, you know?
Also, but what I'm thinking is the perspective of the player themselves, right? So I think of someone like Harry Kane. He is probably all around the best striker in the world right now. He does so many things for Bayern Munich when he drops deep, when he knows when to make a run, when he interplays with Elise, all those things, but you can see when you watch him, he is inextricably confident in his ability on the pitch. He knows that if he wants to make a pass, he can get it there in time. And he's really great at reading the game. So when I'm watching someone, so like, let's do a comparison. So when I watch Semenyo, he looks very confident. He looks like he's ready to take on a defender, right? And he wants to score goals. That's his intent. When I watch his teammate Ivan Nilsson, I don't feel that confidence from him, right? It feels like things haven't clicked yet for whatever reason. He might naturally be a very confident guy. I don't know him, so I can't say like his confidence levels at 2% of what I don't know that. But in watching him through the eye test, it feels like he doesn't think he's going to score goals almost.
You know, the prime example of this, and we're just going to shout out, you know, one of our little baby Eagles here, Christian Pulisic. He had moments at Chelsea during lockdown where he looked like he legitimately could have been one of the best players in the world, right? Where he had sequences where he was a world-class player, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He gets benched, gets hurt, goes back and forth. It doesn't work out at Chelsea for him. He goes to AC Milan and becomes, in 2 seasons, probably the leader in assist and goals in one of the best leagues in the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so much of this. I think we always forget the human element of that. These are just players out there that want to be believed in.
Yeah.
They want to feel the love of fans. They want to do all these things, and if things don't work out in the perfect situation, sometimes that's just the way it goes, you know?
Yes, it is.
And it's not the right place for you, you know?
It's not, and I think there's very few footballers out there who have the supreme confidence in their ability to where a bad stretch doesn't get to their head.
And
Right?
the
Like,
thing
there's
is too,
very few players like that.
like confidence delusion, which one's which? Like I think they go hand in hand in a certain capacity.
I think ultimate belief in your skill level, but that skill has to be true, right? It has to be valid. The delusion doesn't matter at that point, right? If
But
I'm
I think honestly you
thinking,
have to have the delusion to get to that point. Like I think
maybe
any kid that is telling, like, if they're playing soccer at 7 years old, they say, I want to play professional soccer, right? I want to do all these things. You have to have a certain amount of delusion to realize the actual numbers. Like as a young kid, you're not thinking about that, right? But like to actually get to that point in life where you're actually there on that stage, there's so many things that have to go right, you know?
there are, but I think if you have the talent and you believe in that talent, then the delusion comes hand in hand with that, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I think it
You're
breeds
agreeing with me.
it breeds that confidence in that way for people to, take that next step kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
so we're saying the same thing there, but I think confidence is a very important thing to look for in FPL assets because Nicholas Jackson is another great example. He was a player, and I'm not trying to give him a hard time. I know he's definitely gotten a hard time from everyone else. So, but he's a good example for this because he was a good player in La Liga, scored a decent amount of goals, maybe made the move to Chelsea a little early on in his career. He was still really young, but you could just see that lack of belief in being able to convert chances, and then it just cascaded.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There was truthfully, Chelsea, whenever he first started really struggling, they should have reported a fake injury and said, "You're just gonna sit for a month. You're gonna go on a vacation, get your head right, and come back." That's what they should have done in that situation. If I was his manager, I would have said, "Take some time. You need to just get adapted. Like live in the city of London for a month. Get used to your surroundings."
Yeah.
And maybe that would have been good for him because I think he's talented enough, right? Like, I don't think it's a lack of talent. It's just when that confidence starts to wane, his finishing waned as well, right? So look at the other spectrum of kind of like the eye analysis portion of things, and I think confidence is a big key in there, something that we should all be looking out for.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I mean, there's also the thing too where, I mean, a large part of the eye test too now, the whole conversation around it is you can't just watch games, you have to also look at the underlying numbers. As we've talked about on this podcast, I usually just go more by the eye test. I've adopted more of like looking at actual numbers behind players, trying to figure out like do we think that statistically everything we're seeing matches up, you know?
Right, right.
But taking them both hand in hand is probably one of the biggest debates in honestly all of soccer right now. There's people
Mhm.
that hate XG, there's people that love it. There's people that think you can't do one without the other. There's people that think you can't do either at the same time. It's just a really big discussion, and I think that it's all on a personal basis, you know? Whatever works for you as an FPL manager is gonna help you make a decision that you feel is right, is the blueprint to use, you know?
I agree, I agree. I think everything is relatively relative. The way
Yeah, no, you're
that
right, you're
you
right.
view things is going to slant how you value XG, how you value watching what's happening on the pitch. Because conversely, just how there are people who hate XG and think that, football is not quantifiable in the way that a lot of people see it is, there are people equally who don't even watch these matches at all and purely look at it from numbers perspective without watching a single minute of the ball being on the pitch, which is equally as crazy, I think, as people saying
I
XG is
can't
something
imagine.
that you can't draw value from. So what I'm trying to say there is I feel like each one of us has a different way that we value how to analyze what's happening on the pitch. And what we're trying to do here is, if you are someone who's more statistically inclined, maybe there's something more to better understanding the tactics behind a match. Why is a certain player taking up certain positions whenever they play a back five? When they play a back five, for example, why are they making runs in the space there? Why is Florian Wirtz not working at Liverpool? Like understanding these things require you to watch what's happening and understanding the chess and the checkers portion of things, right? So yeah, I
And
go ahead.
I will say, Luke, I think a large part of that too is like obviously it's completely what people want to make out of the situation. But if you're somebody that's more numbers heavy, try to watch more matches. If you're somebody that doesn't watch as many matches, or if you're somebody that watches all the matches, you don't look at the numbers, talk to your friend that
Yeah.
is
Yep.
a huge statistician. Like, just have a conversation with them because I mean, we can all learn from each other, and it only is just going to help in the long run. You
No,
know,
it is. It is. And I think that's what we're advocating for here, right? Is that as FPL managers, we're always looking to improve and get better in how we do things, how we understand what's happening on the pitch, maybe using some more statistical analysis we haven't used in the past. There's always room for improvement here. And there's only one person who wins every single year. Out of the,
me,
yes, Paul, the winner of this upcoming FPL season will be Paul. Um,
that would be pretty
Maybe
crazy
I'd be all for it. I'd be cheering for you if you're getting close to it. Um, the thing is that we can keep getting better over time,
for sure.
and kind of refining how we do things. But also, I think by inventing how we interact with it, we can feel more confident in the decisions that we're making as FPL managers. And then by being more confident in those decisions we're making, when things don't go your way, you can say, "Okay, I did the best I could." Right? Like I feel like if you have that portion of you where you're like, "Okay, well, I looked at these stats, I watched this match, I felt like this was possible, maybe it just doesn't play out," then so be it. Like FPL is an incredibly difficult game to play, regardless if you want to acknowledge it or not. It's extremely difficult because when you,
The amount of variance and even one game, if you
yeah,
combine a whole weekend, I mean, there's been multiple weekends where I went on that little stretch, you know, where I had probably my best three game weeks ever back to back to back,
hmm,
where I was like, why didn't I get more points?
yeah, yeah,
Because like physically watching the games, there was probably like two or three instances where I could have had 15 more points each week, you know?
yeah, yeah. If you think about it from this
It's
perspective
crazy.
too, think about American football, so the NFL. In fantasy NFL, you have 4 or 5 players who can score a touchdown, right? Viably, throughout the course of a game, offensively. In FPL, you have 10, potentially 11, right? Like, say the goalkeeper comes up, there's just so much variance, and the way the sport's played, it just makes it really difficult for us. But that's why it's so much fun, because when you do get it right, there's nothing much better than that.
No, I completely agree with you, and like the fact that, and also the mechanics of like you're saying how FPL itself works, that you can run your team however you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to have a fresh team every week, you could take a negative what 44 every week, and you could still be a really good FPL player if it balanced out, right?
Yes, it would be a negative 60, I think. Let me do the math real
Wasn't it
quick.
just 15 players?
Yeah,
It's that's 60.
15 times 4.
It's
Yep,
60.
that is 60.
So you could literally take a negative 60 every week, but if you were averaging 120 points a week,
I think they limit how many hits you can take in a week. Maybe you're allowed to transfer out the entire team, but they do cap you at a certain point
I don't know.
where you can't keep making transfers.
Yeah.
But,
But
regardless,
you see what I'm saying? Where
I
I mean,
do.
like you
I
can
do.
play this game in very extreme ways that kind of like flirts around the corners of what other people would do. But I mean, you can make FPL really whatever you want out of it.
You can. You can. And that's which is the great thing about it, right? We see shifts throughout the course of an FPL season where the trendy pick is going with a 3-5-2, and then maybe that shifts to a 4-4-2. And then, oh, wait, look, big at the back. We're going to 5-3-2. There's a lot of movement in the way that the game is played based upon fixtures, based upon form. But as FPL managers, we have to be aware of that and understand
Mhm.
where we can get an advantage out of that. And I think as we're talking about the eye test, it's harder to quantitatively put variables on that. So it's more qualitative. And that's harder to necessarily measure, right? In a lot of extent. So um, there's a pretty big advantage to have there because we've seen a huge jump in the quantitative analysis of FPL just even in the time we've been playing, which is about 5 years now or so. I mean, whenever we first started, there were a couple content creators that maybe had XG out there, and it's just ballooned exponentially since then. So um, I wonder where we'll be at 10 years from now. That'll be interesting.
I'm not going to go on a rant about AI, but I feel like whenever that becomes the metrics of what that's going to be able to track, the stuff that you're talking about, the deadly diagonals, finding players that always end up in those pockets and those channels to finish chances like that, that's going to be easy to find. There's going to be a progression in data of like 10, 15 years ago, there were teams conducting that they were going by XG, they were building in that certain capacity. We're at that we're at that new frontier now where I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of data that these clubs have that they don't want other people to know that they have their hands on, where you're gonna see who even knows these intense like biometric
Well,
readings about players' bodies where you're gonna know where they're
but
gonna get hurt
that's
and like
that's already happening, right? I think
even to a higher detail though,
there's
you know.
right where it's more accurate, but clubs are actively tracking like player frame movements, like skeleton movement, to analyze kind of like what we're talking about, like when they're good at timing their runs, where their body positioning is when they receive a ball with a defender coming from behind, right? Like how many times are they looking up to see what's going on in front of them? That messy
The
look
De
that everyone
Bruyne
talks about. Yes.
scans.
Stuff like that. Scans. Yes, that's the correct terminology for it. That isn't very important stuff that clubs are tracking, but as FPL managers, you have to pay thousands of dollars to get your hands on that data, right? And that's just a lot of
That
people aren't
Opta
going to
pack
do
would be
that.
nice.
Yeah, Opta, sponsor us.
Yeah, well, we would love that.
Yes, yes. But you have to make a good offer.
Yeah. Okay, we're not settling for anything light, let me tell you.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We've got to talk to our accountant Kyle about it. So
He's really good too.
yes, yes. If you're new to the podcast, Kyle is our favorite guest that has joined. He does a great job, and
Mhm.
we'll probably have him on sometime in the near future. So if you're listening, Kyle, shout out to you.
Thanks for hanging around this long.
Yes, yes. And I think that will probably bring us to a close today. Paul, what are your final thoughts for the listeners out there?
Like we kind of talked about earlier, AFCON's right around the corner. Make sure your team's kind of slowly preparing for that. We will get those 5 transfers boosted up going into game week 16. But it's already going to be planning for that. And then really, we should be looking at the festive fixtures too, because like you said, there's going to be a midweek fixture December 2nd, 3rd, 4th in that window.
Which is game week 14, I believe.
I think it's 14. It'll be 2 weeks from
13,
now.
Yeah, 14. Yep.
So be aware of that. Champions League also will be back this next week incoming too, right?
I think so.
So there's going to be
there might be a Champions League break for a little bit. I think there was a longer
possibly,
break.
but there's going to be a ton of fixtures coming up. So just keep a close eye on those injury reports and what managers have to say about their players, because this Friday is a really big presser window where we're going to figure out a lot of data about what players are going to be able to play, who's not going to, all those things.
Yep. I checked while you were saying that. Champions League does not start this week, but next week. So between game week 12 and 13. So we'll get Champions League around November 25th, something like that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Champions League.
No, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. I won't be able to watch it, but it'll be fun.
I'll be watching.
I'll do my best. I'll try to get something.
I'll be in a soccer household.
Man. Never mind. But
Lucas.
It's been a fun episode. My feedback for anyone out there, like I said earlier, really wait for those pressers, because there could be more injuries we don't know about. Maybe we're overreacting to some injuries that we think we might know some information on. So pump the brakes on any early transfers. If you miss a price rise or two, if you can still make those transfers while letting that price rise, I think it's worthwhile to wait on that at this point. But if you feel like you have to, maybe roll the dice, go for it. But preferably not, is my advice.
Yeah, let's be real. If you were worried about price rises, you should have moved like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, probably so.
Essentially. Yeah. But everybody plays their own way, you know?
Yeah. My last final thing is set Van den Berg brace this weekend. And
okay,
heard it here first.
Brendan Aronson hat trick this weekend. You heard it here first.
All right. Yeah, that's even more ridiculous than mine. And on that note, we are out. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, day, morning, whatever it is, and we will talk with you next week.
Thanks, everybody.